profits in your small business? Like many of us, I'm sure you're feeling it. Business is hard. Now more than ever, you need to have a plan to help your business not just survive, but thrive. I'm Marcia, a business strategist on a mission, and I've helped tons of small business owners to establish and implement a tangible plan that guarantees sustainability and guides your growth. Today, I want to share some strategies that I've earned and learned with you on today's Profit with a Plan podcast. And I'm super excited to have my guest with me, Bing Oliver. Bing is served as an award-winning Chick-fil-A franchise owner and a top-ranked Chick-fil-A business consultant. We all love our Chick-fil-A. There's lines around the block where I am, so loving it. He has firsthand knowledge on what it takes to have had a business that owns you rather than the other way around. Now, through his company, Peake Coaching, he helps business owners empower their whole team, reconnect with their why they started their business in the first place, and to grow their company. The result, you ask? They get control over their life and get their life back and make the difference that they envisioned when they started their business. Bing delivers actionable content through his in the trenches stories about the challenges he and his clients have faced and overcome, and how you can overcome those same challenges in your business. So we're super happy to have you on the show with us, Bing. Welcome to Profit with a Plan.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to it.
Great, me too. We all struggle with, trying to have that work-life balance and really, manage our time well in the day, and with even the challenges that we've got at COVID and most of us working from home. I need some secrets and some ideas from you today that can help us really grasp that and make our time more efficient and effective. Are you down with that?
I love it. This is a topic I love to talk about. So yes.
Good. So if we're talking about, mastering, getting more done in our day, what's some of the tips or ideas that you have for us?
Well, the first thing that I would start off with is really mindset. And I think that this is a really beautiful illustration. Is I think that we tend to think about life as being a balance. You've seen the old balances, and that we talk about work-life balance. I believe you use that term. And that means I'm always sort of like this, or maybe I've like if I'm totally enjoying my life, my business is all out of whack. Or if I'm totally focused in my business, I miss the soccer game. We have to reschedule date night again, right? And what I have learned is it doesn't have to be 50-50. It can be 100-100. You can have 100% awesome business that you're doing the things that you love within your business that you wanted to do when you started off. And you can have 100% of the life that you want. Because most of us, if we start a business, or even if we have that intrapreneurial mindset within a job, these days, everybody kind of thinks like, everybody I talk to kind of thinks like a business owner. And they have this idea of the life they want to live, and they pick the work to make that happen. Mm-hmm. And a part of that is within the business, they have something that they love and they want to do that. But then what happens, it's happened to me numerous times. I'm actually in a cycle right now, we may get into that, where I'm having to relearn it. So it's very fresh. And I try to stay a few steps ahead of my clients. I find that's a really great model, but to be able to say, hey, I can have both, and both can be great. But how does that happen? Because I think if we work on balance, it just kind of always tends to feel like they're competing with each other. Mm-hmm. And there's a mindset shift and practices that can put us in a place where, let me go back and say, when we started our businesses, we wanted X. We had this idea of what life would look like. Then the business begins to sort of take over. It's almost like, I've compared it to the Frankenstein monster. You put it together, you jolt it with life, and then all of a sudden it's running amok all around town. And you're like, oh my gosh, I created this mess. And then you find yourself going, maybe I should go back and get a job, you know? And and then the question becomes, how can I get the business back in its place where it's serving me, serving my community, serving my people, rather than all of us serving it? So
Uh,
that's
that
where I'd start.
that is the $1 million question, I think, and the answer that we all strive for. Because many of my listeners and my clients, they found me because they were reacting, they were putting out fires, they were,
Yes.
chasing more clients, and out of breath. If you can imagine that kind of stress that goes on it, and
Yeah.
then they're doing it, 16 hours a day, Saturdays and Sundays, and their families hating them. And I jokingly say that we became entrepreneurs, and you get the luxury to choose which 100 hours you want to work each week. You
Yeah.
know, um, but that's not what we signed up for when we initially started. We had that, like you said, that goal. So most business owners get to that point because they're doing it. How do we get away from there?
Well, that's the interesting thing then, is it's very counterintuitive. And I'll tell you, I can tell you this is what happened to me personally. In the early 2000s, I was a brand new Chick-fil-A franchisee, and I had spent decades within the company. I started off as a 15-year-old filleting chicken and taking out the trash, worked my way all the way up to where I was a business consultant within Chick-fil-A, giving advice to franchisees about how to run their businesses and being a liaison between them and corporate. And I used that time to study what works and what doesn't work. And I found that there were a lot of people with a technician mindset who were really good at running a restaurant, who had a lot of trouble getting out of that box. And then there was a couple of operators or franchisees, we use the word operator, but it's interchangeable, that had come. Like, there was one guy who came from banking, and he
Mm,
didn't really, and he did have his season of 80 hours and all that kind of stuff, because we all do. And you don't, like, if you're listening to this and you think that you should immediately go to this 100, then that's not the answer. It takes a time, but there's a shift that occurs. So anyway, I had studied these guys, and this one particular guy was from the banking industry. And because he was not a great technician within the restaurant industry, but he understood organizational structure and how to lead, he became really good. He got multiple locations, great relationships. He had the 100, I would say, or 80,
wow.
we're behind both. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to emulate that. Well, I got in to do it. I had all the information, and guess what I did? I defaulted back to these patterns that put me into 60 plus hours a week, and it wasn't enough. And, as you're telling the story of these, 16-hour days and Saturdays, et cetera, here's the interesting thing is, I would ask listeners, let's just pause for a minute and just think about, is it enough? Like, when you work 16 hours and Saturdays, what are you thinking? You're still thinking, man, I
One more
need
day. If I had a couple more hours.
two of me. Could I reduce my sleep? Whatever. Here's the interesting thing. There's two things that create that, I believe. The first thing that creates that is your success. So there's a book from, I want to say it's the 80s, 90s, called The E-Myth. You may be familiar with
Mhm.
the person who's the pie maker, who's great at making pies, and their friends say, you need to start a pie company because your pies are awesome. And they don't realize that making pies and having a pie business are two totally different things. And so they default back to what they're good at, which is making pies. And then and I see this all the time. We kind of rise to this level where our success grows the business, and then we just keep doing what we were good at, whatever it was that made us. Me, it's coaching. Like, I'm really good at coaching, and but if I just default to coaching and don't pay attention to all the other wheels that are required to run peak coaching company, we're tanked. But I'll tend to default back to what's easiest for me, and then to think I have to do it all. So that's kind of the first mindset. The second mindset is, more will get me there. If there's just more hours, more me, whatever. And it's
Right.
actually, this is the turn. And what happened to me was, when I was working 60 plus hours and it wasn't enough, I went to see my chiropractor, and on my weekly chiropractor visit, and he looked at me and he said, man, you don't look that great. Tell me what's going on. And this was kind of beyond the chiropractor. He handed me a business card for a coach, and I called him up. And at this time within within Chick-fil-A, I don't think anybody had a business coach. But I called this, it was a group actually. And I started working with them, and I worked with them for 2 years. And they ultimately ended up teaching me how to do what I actually already knew how to do. I just didn't know how to do it, which was to
Hmm.
build a high performance team that ran the business so that I could run the organization. But you want to know what the very first thing that they told me to do? Take more time off, whole days,
Wow.
completely dedicated, not to the business. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me.
Right? Are you insane? There's not enough hours in the day right now. We can't get enough done. I need to put more time in. I gotcha.
Yeah, and they didn't have the magic they didn't have the Bing duplicator, which is what I was hoping for. And what they
The
had was
cloning machine?
yeah, and what they had was the exact opposite, Marcia, which was, we want you to actually take more time away
Wow.
from the business. And I thought, what have I got to lose?
Right?
I'm not going to say it was easy, but our very first session, it was in a group, and they said, we want you to set a goal for how many days you will take off in the next 90 days. They have 90-day cycle, which I teach in 90-day cycles as well, because I just think it works. So you're like, okay, well, let's see. I'm going to take off all Chick-fil-A. You can take Sundays off. If you're not careful, you'll be in there checking the refrigerator and doing the bills and stuff like that. But
Mm.
they're closed. So I was like, well, okay, I can take my Sundays. And I did that. And then I said, well, I'm going to take Saturdays. And I did that too. And then I decided I was going to take a vacation. And so I added it all up and I set a goal. And the beauty of it is we come back and we go, how'd you do? And you reported that, and then you set a new goal. And the reasoning behind this was there's three different kinds of time that they taught, and I teach it as well. You've got time where you're making money, you got time where you're disengaged, and then you have time where you're planning for the other two, planning your vacation or planning your next sales event. And the time away is where your brain clicks back into the creative entrepreneurial strategic mode and sees clearly. And all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, 80% of the stuff that I'm spending 16 hours a day doing, I should not be doing. So it either needs to not be done, which usually most businesses are trying to do too many things. We need
Hmm.
to be known for something, or I need to find somebody who's just brilliant at doing this. So I became also one of the first Chick-fil-A franchisees to hire an administrative assistant. Everybody's looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, because I stink at calendars and and flight arrangements and spending time in the office. And they just said, hey, you need to understand what your couple of things are that you are just like world changer different good at, and then you got to get everything else off the plate. And you can't do that at 16 hours a day. You just
No, you
can't see it.
can't. That's the big mindset shift that you're talking about. It's like, we can sit there continuously and trying to put the square peg into the round hole. And then if we just move it this way, or we just move it this way, or we just move it that way, it's all that extra energy and time trying to do that, when if you just let go of it, take a walk, even if it's a walk, not a full day off, or go
Yes.
out and have lunch where you're not thinking about work. It allows your brain to work through that problem and then freshen yourself, and you come back and you're like, oh, if I just shave off here, it's round and it goes right in, duh.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it becomes a very simple problem that you can solve. And I think that we all just forget
Hmm.
that that's an important thing. When
Hmm.
we're sleeping, whether you're sleeping 7 hours, which you should minimum 6, 7 hours, and then there's people trying to live on, 3 and 4 hours. But when you're sleeping, your mind is also healing and working through those problems, and you
Yes.
wake up with a fresh look at it. I love it.
Yes. So there's a couple of, we're going to get, before we're done, where I'm going to tell of some very specific things that you could do
Excellent.
like this week. But I want to stay in mindset just a little bit more, because I love what you said about sleep. So there's more recent research that's been being done, and you may be aware of this, in the subconscious mind. And what we're learning is that it's 1,000,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind, and you default to it anytime you're not consciously thinking. So when you're driving, when you're running, when you're having lunch with a friend, and when you're sleeping, it's running the show.
Mhm.
And it's run based on assumptions that we created up until about age 12. And so you cannot beat it. But what you can do is re-record over it. It's just like those, for those of us who've been around long enough, you remember the cassette tapes back in the 80s that you would, you'd put your mixtape on there, and then you could take
Yep.
that and we just record all over it and start.
Hmm.
And that's what we have to do. We have to re-record with new mindsets. And then we automatically run off of those mindsets, which makes it easier. So one way to do this is to get abundantly clear on what I want. And you cannot do that while you're going 16 hours. So you got to spend some time and reflect. I try to do this exercise every year to write out what my perfect day would look like. And,
Right.
and by writing it, sticking it on the wall, putting it in front of you, some kind of visual, something, what you're doing is you're setting a preferred future in your mind, a picture. Vision is a picture of the future that produces passion in you. So if you have this emotion in this picture over here, and then you have your current reality over here, imagine that you have I have a bungee. So we have created something in between. And if we could clip that bungee, sometimes I'll actually use a bungee in an analogy. I need to get one for the office. Um, then we create tension, right? You can feel that. And I could
Hmm.
feel it if I was holding it, my hands would be shaking. What has to happen? The tension must
Mm.
resolve. And so that is why a lot of times I'll ask people, do you ever go to sleep with a problem in your mind and wake up in the morning with this solution that you're like, oh, that's it,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Or
That's what's
or I
going on.
toss and turn all night and get no rest because I'm
Mhm.
not letting the subconscious, I guess in your description, I'm not letting the subconscious take it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. But isn't it amazing? And the other time that I will find that I get answers are when I take a bike ride.
Mm.
And I'm also an amateur drummer. So when I play my drums,
Oh, nice.
and I had a therapist explain to me that that's called bilateral stimulation. And so what's going on is this rhythm, this running, bicycling, back and forth. It actually creates a somewhat of a trance-like state. That's where we get that, runner's high. And
Oh,
that's where again, your subconscious mind. I've come back from many bike rides and grabbed the whiteboard and go, okay, this is a solution. This is what we're going to do.
love it. So you're doing two things there. You're actually taking care of your body and you're taking care of the problem that's keeping you at work that is
Yeah.
stopping it. Good idea. Okay. Good idea. I
and,
love it.
and just
An
like
excuse
everybody
to
else, though,
exercise.
just like everybody else, though, my mind tells me you don't have time to take that bike ride today.
Right.
But every time I do, I get time back.
Right. Ah, what a strange way of thinking of it, that
Mhm.
if you are doing less, you're actually getting more,
Yep.
right? Okay. Tell me
Less
more
of
about
less
this.
of less of the wrong things and more. So each of us has unique ability or unique abilities, and it's usually one, maybe two things that you're really good at. And interestingly,
The
you know
genius
what's
code.
the enemy of that? It's not your weaknesses usually. What's the enemy is the thing that you're pretty good at. So I'm pretty
Mm,
good at making a spreadsheet and presenting that to my team. And recently I did that. Okay, here's the measurables. We're going to meet each week and we're going to talk about what these things are. Um, and that's very time consuming, and I'm pretty good at it. And that takes time away from what I'm really good at. You know,
yeah.
which is coaching, delivering content, and creating community. Coaching, content, and community are my things. And so the less I'm doing those, it's the good is the enemy of great.
Love it. And it is really important that we as small, specifically entrepreneurial business owners, we're trying to wear all the different hats and we're
Yes.
trying to, do everything. And I constantly say, there are things you should never do, like your own accounting. And, you should be focusing on really what is the one thing that only you can do in your business, and then everything else
Yes.
really should be farmed out. And then the conversation becomes, well, I don't have any money to pay somebody to do that. And I'm
Yes.
like, but you could be making more money to pay for them if you weren't focusing on the 3-hour spreadsheet that someone could have popped out in 20 minutes,
Yes.
at a fraction of the price that your hourly is. So
I,
it
I
just
will say though, I can really relate to that pushback because personal disclosure, my first round of learning this lesson was in an environment where I was very cash. There's a lot of cash. So it's a $3 million Chick-fil-A restaurant. There's a lot of cash flowing through there. You already get that flow. And it's just
Right.
really a matter of what am I going to spend it on?
Hmm.
Whereas now as a smaller business, we're a six-figure coaching company. That's it's not a nice living, but you have to be super careful about what you spend your money on. And so that has been my challenge in this season is I don't have any reluctance, philosophically to just handing off wholesale everything that I'm not good at. But I have for, quite some time had to do things that I didn't want to do. And I finally, most recently I got married and I went on a honeymoon and I thought I've seen this before. I'm going to leverage, we took 10 days and I said, I'm going to leverage being gone to take my business to the next level. And I told my team this. I have a team of three freelancers that do marketing stuff for me and a little bit of operations. And I said, my expectation is I'm going to disconnect with, planned check-ins. And the vast majority of my time is going to be not engaged in work. And my expectation is, I believe, because I've seen it before, I believe when I come back, we'll all be in a better place. You guys will make progress on stuff. And when I came back, I made some real fundamental decisions to go, okay, these are things I am not doing anymore. And more importantly, these are things that we are not doing anymore.
Right.
And it was a lot of elimination and therefore getting a lot better at the few things that we do.
I love it. I constantly, my family is always yelling at me, well, you're always working. And I'm like, well, because it's the training that the entrepreneurial mind has, is that they're always working on these things. And
Yeah.
it's enjoyable for me to work and
Yes.
create and be
Yes.
and do that. But again, I have to tell myself to shut it off, go do something else. If it's exercise, which I love, or if it's, doing something fun or doing something creative or doing something different. I don't care what it is. I think it's that different thing.
Yes.
I think that's what opens it all up. I'm liking
Yes.
this conversation.
Me
Really
too.
am. And I think it's appropriately timed because the stresses of the new year
Mm.
um, cause a lot of people to go, I need to do more this year. I need to be better this year. I need to break last year's goals. And considering last year was just a crappy old year for most people, I need to make this year, I need to catch up. So the stresses that we're putting on ourselves right now to be bigger, better, faster, stronger is huge. And it always comes out. Everybody's doing their diet, they're doing their exercise, they're setting their goals, they're striving. It's the first fresh part of the new year with
Yes.
all these intense pressures on us. And we want to go back to that 60-hour work week or 16-hour days and 100 hours here and Saturdays. Because if I just do Saturdays for the next 2 months, then I'll be ahead.
Well, can I tell you, uh, I have been just blessed and amazed because last year was a very, very challenging time for small businesses. But in the last week, I've had conversations with my clients and they experience double-digit sales increases, profit increases off the charts, and more quality time with their family than they've ever enjoyed in their lives. And this is largely because of pivots that they were able to make because the agility they built within their team and their commitments to put the most important things first and to be in their sweet spot. So it's working, and I mean, my business is 4 years old. I've had some success stories. But this past year, it was like, I don't know, because it was such a difficult year, those success stories are really standing out to me even more. Um, and very encouraging, I was on a call with a guy yesterday who he wouldn't even tell me how much his profits were up, and he spent more time with his family, and sales were up,
It
and he's
felt
more enjoying the
good.
work that he's doing.
Exactly, it's that shift. All right. So we you promised us some ideas and
Yes.
strategies that we can put in our business right now. Let's
Yes.
focus on those a little bit more because honestly, this conversation can go on for another hour or two and still
Yes.
be so fruitful that I
Yeah.
want to make sure that we're honoring the 30, 35 minute, 40-minute mark. So tell us some
Absolutely.
ideas that we can put into our business.
I would rather, see someone take one idea and be able to do something with it than, for us to come up with a lot of things and then somebody feels more weighted down.
Sure.
So I'm going to share with you the thing that I think will help the most and then the thing that will support that. So it's one
Okay.
idea with two parts.
Love it.
So the first idea is a weekly time of reflection and planning.
Okay.
And we have a format that we use for this. I keep it right next to me because I use it all the time. Um, show you what this looks like. And this is what we're going to provide for people is
Awesome.
it's called the coaching multi-tool because it's used for a lot of different things. And up here, the first thing that we do is we write down our wins from the previous week. So I divide wins into two categories: gratitude and progress. Gratitude are things that happened to me that I did not make happen. Progress are things that I had in mind and I made progress on them. Both of those, and this is going to sound a little bit like a lot of business owners would be, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like gratitude? Like
Yeah.
that's like
Woo 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 stuff.
yeah, woo-woo stuff. But what it does is, as an entrepreneur, your mind is always thinking of the next problem. And when
Hmm.
you think of the problem, what do you think? Am I going to be able to overcome this? We're going to figure this out. So when you start off with scoring your wins for the previous week, you're putting your mind into the mind frame of, we have conquered everything I have conquered everything that's ever come my way. I've got what it takes. And it puts your confidence up here. And I recommend three things, like just do three wins, your three biggest wins for the week. Do this on a Sunday night. Then the next spot down here, we're going to write in our three big rocks for the week. So these are the things, come hell or high water, that are going to happen. For me this week, it was putting on a workshop, and it was something with my family. I don't remember what it was. And this podcast, like, these are really big, important things for me to make sure I'm showing up at my very, very best. And what's interesting is when you prioritize the things that must get done, it's amazing how the emails and the texts and all those little details, somehow they just work out.
Hmm.
And I highly recommend going and Googling Big Rocks by Stephen Covey and watching the video. It's a visual representation. This guy's trying to stuff a bunch of small and big rocks into a container, and they don't
Right.
fit. But if you put the big ones in first, then pour the small ones in,
All
it'll
the little ones start fitting in.
beautiful, beautiful. And you think, oh, that's not going to work, and it really does. So then we do this, and then the third thing that we do is we just write down our action steps that we need to do for the next week. The most important thing are these first two blanks, and if you will do this on a Sunday evening and start a habit, um, then what's going to happen is your mind's going to get oriented towards bigger dreams and goals that you have. Your actions are going to line up to those, and you're going to make progress each week toward, because we're all going to work. The question is it the right stuff? And this is going to get you
Yes.
focused in on the things that are going to get you the wins for the next week. And that's the cool thing about the process is the rocks for this week become the wins for next week, and it just cycles.
I like it. I like it. It's very simple, something easy to do. Question though, why
Yep.
should it be done on Sunday night instead of Monday morning?
Monday morning is fine. I have people who do both. For me, once I wake up Monday morning, my mind is ready to go. And if I haven't, but a lot of times what I'll do, I don't want to get too complicated. A lot of times I'll write down my reflections and wins on Sunday night and get up Monday morning and do the big rocks. Um,
Okay.
yep, and I really highly recommend set a timer. Like, give yourself 15 minutes. I'm going to do 15 minutes of reflection. I'm going to do 15 minutes of big rocks. That keeps you. The other thing is use a marker, like, because
Uh-huh.
we're not journaling here, you know,
Right.
it's, I think I've got one of mine. I use sticky notes, and I'll put 3 sticky notes in a marker. So I can't put more than about 4 or 5 words.
Love it, love it. Yeah, it's not journaling. It's just getting it out, and I think honestly, there are so many benefits to the woo woo side of the gratitude. I know business owners don't think in the woo woo, they think of structure and pieces and action steps and go do it. But when you spend a little time in gratitude and you're thankful for what has come your way, and you appreciate your team, you appreciate your family, you appreciate the fact that you did that hard workout, you appreciated the fact that there was coffee in the morning, whatever your appreciation is, when you put that out into the world, it does welcome more gifts
Yep.
to you. So it is, don't think about it as woo woo and meditative and spiritual and all these things, but just to be thankful,
Yep.
and it brings the gifts. So I encourage you as a business owner to try this one little thing. Don't
Yeah.
tell anybody, don't let anybody see you, but just be thankful, right? And be thankful for what you have. Thankful that you are an entrepreneur, and that made you made it through 2020, and
Yep.
that January you got a new client, or you got this, or the grant is coming in, or whatever it is that's coming your way. Be
Yes.
thankful for it, and more things will come your way without having to work on it, and then it
Yes.
balances that good stuff out. So I'm a woo woo at heart, but try not to wear it on my sleeves, and you don't have to let anybody know that you're doing it, just do it anyways.
Yeah, and then what happens is the very next step is I'm going, as a business owner, I'm very much oriented that way. Then I'm going to start getting into what needs to be done, what are the
The
tasks, who's
process.
going to do them, and we get very structured,
Yep.
but we're structured around the right things. And
Hmm.
I'm less concerned about us spending I mean, boy, you can spend a lot of money on marketing and put it in the wrong direction. You
Yes.
want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to make sure the message is going to the right person in the right place. And these are the kind of things that it's an invest. I mean, I'll tell you, taking time away, reflection, things we've talked about today. These are business strategies.
Yeah.
This is not a feel good strategy. These are business strategies.
These are so important, that are often forgotten, and as I call my business planning, underutilized. So it's time to put these tools into work and get them done. So one final thing that I want to wrap up here with is
Yes.
that you had said the word delegate. If it's not in your genius zone and it's not your time, we encourage you to delegate and take some of those things uh, off of your platter. One of my consultants tells me, oh, manage your plate. And I go, plate? We're talking platter. We're talking buffet. I've got so
Plates.
many things in front of me for me to do. It's time to
Yes.
start taking those off, delegate them. There's plenty of people in the virtual world that can do it quicker, faster, and for a fraction of the hours that you're worth. So
Yes.
I love this conversation today about the mindset and shifting. So thank you. So Bing, where can people find out more information about you?
Yeah. Well, that leads to this the other piece of what I just shared, and that is you need to have a supportive community around the things that you're trying to do. And what we've created in this season is a quiet leadership community where you can go away from the notifications, away from the advertisements, away from the person that's constantly trying to send you a message and sell you something, and meet other like-minded leaders and engage in conversations and exercises that will help you grow. It's called the Peak Lodge, and
I like it.
it's like social media, except I own the lodge, and I make the rules, and the rules are we're on here to help each other grow, not sell to each other, and not be sold to. And within there, if you join the Peak Lodge, you're going to find this tool right at the top center. And so the Peak Coaching multi-tool is right there. We have it in a list of resources. Um, and the way to get to that is just to go to our website, peakcoaching.com, and it's PEAKE. And I added the E to make it distinctive, and it's easy to get. It's easy to get URLs and all that, but it's PEAKE coaching.com. And there, when you'll come to the main page, and you'll see our different options. But one of them is the lodge, and that's where you start. You can find out other things that we do and all that kind of stuff. But there's no charge to be in the
Yay.
lodge,
Perfect.
and you can actually even go into the lodge and look at it without joining. So
Well, you know what? And I think that that's something that we all need is a safe place to work on our business and really work as the owner and leaders with people that are in a similar area. So I love it. And I love the way you called it lodge. I think that's great. That's a good word for it as a group or a community or whatever. This is a lodge. You're kind of going off to do your work. And so
yes,
thank you so much.
thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, listeners. So thank you for listening today. I hope you found an idea or two to put into your business that will help your business be more profitable. I know this idea is a little different, but it's going to be so much more profitable for you if you can implement these ideas. So, considering what's happened to businesses over the past year, now more than ever, it's important to create your own profit plan. And so, I've created a 6 easy action steps that you can pick up today that you can put into your business immediately that will start to shift things around and turn them around for you. And I encourage you to go get those at failproofbiz, that's biz.com. And as always, Bing and I would love to hear your questions, feedback, or even ideas for future shows. Please subscribe and comment today on the podcast because we would love to respond back to you. And as always, you can catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players. We're looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thanks, Bing.
Thank you so much.